Hello everyone, welcome back to the course, and in this lecture, lecture number 14, we're going to be making a calculator, and this is another beginner project, and we talked about how this is going to be a four-function calculator, which means we'll do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, but we might do some other things such as squares and square roots. We'll also feature things like clearing, equals, decimals, things like that, just what you'd see on your standard four-function calculator. That said, let's go ahead and go into a new project in the top right of our My Stuff folder, and let's get building with it. So I'm going to go ahead and name this calculator. Of course, you can name it whatever you want, and again, with these projects, I strongly advise that you follow along with me. Of course, all of these projects will be in the studio for this course for all of our projects that we've done will be in there. I'll just share them all and put them there. So if you guys want to look back at these or change these, which I also advise you guys to do the practice, that's also available for you. And yeah, so I'm in my project here. I named it calculator here in the top in the header, and I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of the cat since we don't need that. Um, I think I'll just go ahead and start making the buttons. I'm thinking I'll have like a graphic user interface or GUI. Um, just so that instead of like using a text-based calculator where you like type it on your keyboard, I'll just have buttons do it. So I'll just make the first button. Actually, I'll make a template for a button and then just repeat that over and over. So I'll go ahead and just get a square. Um, 4 pixel border should be good. We'll see how it looks though. I'm thinking like light gray, or actually maybe like a dark gray, because I'm thinking the background should be light gray, something like that. Let's see how this look. Not bad. I can make it a little bit more of a square, that'd be nice. It's probably about as square as it'll get. Alright, gotta get that right in the center. And I'll go ahead and get my text. I'll make my text black. And I'll use Pixel. Again, that's my favorite font, and I think it just really goes well with a lot of things. So I'm gonna go ahead and go 1. I might move that over a little bit. A little bit more. Alrighty. So I'm gonna go ahead and just name this one unselected since that's usually what I do if I have two costumes for, I do this a lot for buttons, so I'll have two costumes. I'll have one called unselected, and then I'll just duplicate it. Again, right click and duplicate, and I'll just name it selected, and then I'll make it a different color so that selected is whenever the mouse is hovering over it, and unselected is whenever it's not. So I'll just go ahead and I like rose and gray. I think those two colors go together well for selected and unselected. Of course, you can do whatever you want for that. Um, hmm. Something like this would be good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so I've got my 1 here. Now let's make the other buttons or all the other numbers, and I'll just name this button 0. Or sorry, button 1. Alright, no, actually what I want to do as well is I want to make a script for hovering over it. So I'll just go ahead and go, get my when green flag clicked up there in my workspace, and then I'll just make the default costume, whatever I want that to be, which I want to be unselected by default. And then I'll go ahead and do my forever if else. Alright, got my forever, I'll just put my if else conditional statement inside there. If touching mouse pointer is true, then the costume will be selected, or otherwise, or else it will be unselected. Just like so. So let's go ahead and run this. Alright, very nice. And that is exactly what we want to do. So let's just go ahead and copy this. We're going to need buttons 1 through 0, or I guess 1 through 9 and then 0. So that means 10 in total. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to the 0, 65, 100. Okay, the reason why I'm keeping track of what this color is because I'm actually going to get rid of this costume and then just duplicate it each time I'm doing this. So for example, I'll just go ahead and then select that color, and that way I don't have to type out the text twice and I just have to fill it. And now my 2 is done. And of course my code is still there for selecting and unselecting it. Let's go ahead and go 3. I'm gonna undo that since I want it to be kind of on the same y-axis. Just gotta shift the X to get it in the center. That's good. Alright, and then just 0.6500. Alright, so I'm just gonna repeat this for 4 through 0. Oh, 4 really shifted over to the right, didn't it? And you can change what I'm doing, whether it's the colors, the size, the font, the size of the numbers inside the button, or just the size of the button itself. Um, oops. And honestly, it's totally up to you. You by no means should you be doing the art the same way as me unless you're not, unless it's just something you want to do, because that way you don't have to really focus on the art as much as you do with actual coding. But of course, the first part of this lecture is going to involve a lot of dealing with art. So yeah. And although there's not really much of a quicker way to do this, you could, if you had like 100 of these buttons and don't want to do like 100 by hand, you could probably do something with like clones and then change the text on them, or make a sprite for text and use clones to print that text on different buttons. They're just making clones of other buttons. Of course, it's a little bit more of an advanced thing to do in your code. I almost forgot what number we were on for a second. We were on 6. And like this. So I think there's going to be a lot of very interesting concepts brought up in this lecture, whether it's memory, um, or really, I mean, there's just a lot of potential I can see coming out of this. So, and I know it might not be the most exciting thing, especially this part with the art. For some of you, it might be. I know for me, it's not, since I'm not great with art in general. Um, but yeah, that is just kind of how it is. Like some people enjoy coding more, some people enjoy art more. But one thing's for sure, it's important to have a knowledge of both. And I don't know why this is a 6 and this is a 7. Oh, I completely went out of order. Okay, well, here's what I can do. I can just go ahead and get rid of this. Okay, I'll just rename button 7 to button 8. I apologize for that. But I mean, this happens sometimes, so I'll just name that button so that frees up the button 7. I'll rename it to button 8, and then I'll rename this one to button 7. I'll swap the position, and then now we're all back on track. Alrighty. And let's just go ahead and do this. And 8, okay, 9. Yeah, one nice thing about vector is I don't have to fill the background and the inside of the number separately. I can just go ahead and fill the whole thing all in one. At least in this case, that's quite useful. So we have unselected, and then we'll have selected for 0 as well. Alrighty, very cool. So now we have our 10 buttons, but they're kind of all like in these random places that maybe we don't really want them there so much. However, we can go ahead and actually figure out spacing for them. We want them to be equally spaced for 1, and we also probably want them to be not super spread out, since we do want room for our plus minus, our plus and minus symbols, as well as our multiplication division symbols, and our equal symbol and clear symbol. So I'm just going to kind of manually drag these around. And then after that, I'll just use code to go ahead and get the spacing uniform for everything. So, or actually, I could probably just use code in general. Um, I'll go ahead and go when clicked forever go to. I'll just do or no, actually I'll just go when clicked go to. There's really no reason to do forever. Uh, Other than accidentally dragging it around in the editor while it's running, but let's see what our position is for. Okay, so basically it looks like since two, okay, so we're on the same Y level, and this, I'd say this horizontal spacing is pretty alright. So it's a 70 pixel spacing. So what we can do if we want to do the same for three, I can just add another 70 to it. So negative 114 plus 70, should be negative 44. Let's see if that looks right. Alright, that looks right. So I think we should just do, assuming it's a perfect square or almost perfect square, that means the 70 pixels and the vertical spacing should be good as well. Well, actually, that'd be probably ideal. So I think I'll just go ahead and do that, for my, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and do that for my vertical, spacing. And in order to do that, I can just go ahead and change the Y value. So I want the X values to be the same, and the way I'm going to lay this out, I'm thinking, so I want 4 rows, and actually let me check to see if I have room for 4 rows. I might actually move these up a little bit, but at least I have my X values figured out. So I think I'm just going to make each of these Y64 and see how that looks. Okay, I like that. Okay, and then we'll see if we can get in 4, and then I think like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 with 0 on bottom is what I'm thinking. Something like that. Okay, so, let's just go ahead and do, I did not mean to do that. I did not mean to do that. Oh, they removed the undo feature. That's just fantastic. Alright, well, I accidentally deleted a sprite. That does happen sometimes. Um, Alright, well, we can just go ahead and get it back because I just duplicated my 1 here. And then we can just change it back to 2. And then the name kind of fixed itself because I noticed we were incrementing by numbers and it just saw the 2 is missing and then made it button 2. So I don't have to change the name. Just go ahead and duplicate. So if you were following super closely with my tutorial, hopefully you missed that and did not make the same mistake of deleting that as I did. But alright, so let's see. Looks like it is, okay, so I think we're doing negative 114 for this. Alright, nothing happened at all. So now we can go ahead and do 4. I'm actually just going to go ahead and drag this. No, what I want to do is I want to drag 1 because 1 already has the correct X value and we just have to modify the Y value. So let's see, 64 minus 70, that would be what, negative 4? Does that look right? Yeah, it should be. Okay, so I think there's a little bit more vertical spacing, but it's kind of hard to tell, so I'll just keep seeing how it goes. 2 already has the right X value we want for 5, so I'll just, again, modify the Y value, which we know is negative 4. Boom, just like that. I'm just going to save this periodically. 6 is on the same X value as 3, and we already know our Y value, so I'll just go 3. So now we have our X negative 4. We just got to change the Y to negative 4. And so it gets fairly simple if we just kind of get this process down, you know? So that's just what I'll do there. And another thing to keep in mind is that our 0 is probably going to be somewhere in the center row, or in the center column, and also in the center row. So, yeah, I'll do that. See, yeah, that should fit just fine. It'll be a little bit of a tight squeeze, but I think I'm going to make it work. 7's the same X value as 1 or 4. I'll just drag 1 from 4. I'll subtract another 70 from it. And I don't know if that's, the spacing is very close. I can't tell if it's the same, though. It looks like there's a little bit more spacing between 7 and 4, and 1 and 4. So I don't really have a calculator to check myself here, but I think I subtracted the wrong amount. I think I subtracted 68 and Y. But I really like the way subtracting 68 looks instead of 70 for our Y spacing, so I think I'm just going to keep that, meaning that this would be negative 72. So we're going by, our vertical spacing will be 68 pixels and our horizontal spacing will be 70 pixels. In other words, is all this is. And I'm just going to go ahead and repeat this for 8. And of course, We already have our y value figured out. We got to get our x value, which is negative 114. Pretty much have the x values memorized now, but we could just drag one from 2 or 5 over. And then we just do the same thing for 9. I'll just go ahead and grab the one from 6 because it's on the same x, and then I'll just go ahead and swap out the y for negative 72. Oops. I accidentally placed on top of 6. And 0, as far as 0 goes, all we have to do is I'm going to go ahead and go 8 since that's the same x value, and then we just have to subtract another 68 from here. That should be 140. Let's see how this looks. And that is pretty much your standard numerical layout for most calculators that I've seen. And of course, if there's something like maybe where you live, there's calculators, or maybe it has to do with language and the layout's a little bit different, then yeah, go ahead and change that. But or change the layout fitting to whatever you're used to. Like I'm sure some calculators go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then a 0 here, or maybe something even different than that. So just go ahead and maybe mess with the spacing, mess with the numbers and the layout and the order according to what you're doing. But for the purpose of this lecture, I'm just going to go ahead and do this exact layout. So yeah, and then I'll do my plus, minus, multiplication, division. Well, I guess really addition, multiplication. No, sorry, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Then I'll do a decimal here. I'm not sure what it'll be here. And then we'll do an equal, clear, and then maybe something else on the right as well. So, I think, I can't remember if decimals are on the right or left of 0, but it doesn't really matter. So we'll just go ahead and go on the right for now, since that seems right. I think it's on the right. So I'll just go ahead and go button dot, because this one will be our decimal, and I'll just go ahead and swap it like that. Align it in the center, that should be good. And I'll just go ahead and duplicate, rename to selected, and filled in. Again, that's 0, 65, 100, and right there. Well, I'm not going to drag it, I'm just going to go ahead and go 7 is my same x value. And then I'll just use this whatever y value I was using for 0, which was negative 140. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this, gonna save. And now we're all good. So, oh, did I say it was usually on the right or something? So, okay. I'll just go ahead and keep the y value, and then, wow, what was 9? What was 9's x value? Let's see, I already forgot. Negative 44. So that's what we'd want to do there. Alright, I do quite like that, actually. So, I'll just go ahead and see how this turns out. But, I think another thing that is important is that we need to make sure that we have room for everything, because I made these buttons kind of big and we want our output to be on top is what I'm thinking, and then if we go like too crazy in this direction, then we're not going to have enough room for everything. So, or if we go another row above this, so if you're doing this layout a little bit differently than me, just make sure you have enough room on top, because that's where at least I'm planning on the output for to be, for my project at least. And so, just a little heads up there. And I'm going to go ahead and say that our plus, minus, or addition, subtraction, multiplication, division should be different colors just to kind of distinguish them. I think a color scheme is good for calculators, just so that they're not all the same monotonous color. And I'll just go ahead and copy that one. I'll just name it button plus. I'll do the same thing for a few more here. Button minus. Okay. Button asterisk. Because asterisk in programming, and also sometimes in just math in general, is what we use for multiplication. But in programming is always asterisk, and then for division it's always slash or forward slash more specifically. A backward slash is if the slash is going from left to right, and a forward slash is if it's going from, well, I guess left to right, but it's increasing instead of decreasing. So think of forward slash as increasing, and think of backward slash as decreasing. And that is pretty much what we use there, but it's consistently always that for whenever we're dealing with programming. So just a heads up there. Thought you guys might find that useful. So anyways, let's just go ahead and start getting these ready in terms of art. This one, we'll do the exact same thing, but I think we'll just do a column here, like I said. That's centered enough for me. And of course, you guys can like make this like super perfect. I'm sure these squares even aren't perfect, but that's just the maximum that I can do with my artistic ability. So, oh, what am I doing? This is for division. I thought I had this one selected. That's weird. Okay, no worries. And of course I can go the other way around. Let's say I start with selected. I can just put this one up here, and I can name it unselected. Then I can just fill it in with what grade we're using. Can I just drop it? I can't drop it. Okay, that's okay. I'll just check here. 0073. Okay, well that's good to know anyway, I guess. And now we got that. Let's just do the same for multiplication. So I'm gonna do it, and we could do an X just for like visual purposes, but I think I'm gonna do an asterisk just to keep it consistent with what we're doing inside our code. And also what you could do, and although most keyboards don't have it, at least mine doesn't. If you want to do division symbol and X instead of asterisk and forward slash for multiplication division, go ahead and do that. If you don't know how to get the division symbol because it's not on your keyboard like me, you can go ahead and search in division symbol into Google and then copy paste one of those symbols. Because it's still part of the ASCII text format is what we would call it, meaning that basically there is basically something that Scratch would accept as something we could go ahead and put in our program. So and actually I'm thinking to actually maybe, I don't know if I want to keep this decimal yet, and I will think about that. But I'm just gonna go ahead and keep doing this. Boom. 6,500. You guys are pros at this by now, I'm sure. Just kind of repeating this over and over. And I'm gonna go ahead and go selected, and I'm gonna go ahead and because it's just kind of like I don't know how to format the clear and equals, but I'll think about it. And also you can cause errors if you like enter in only a decimal and then you try and multiply like a decimal by something, and it's just more error handling to program for. I'm not sure if I want to do that just yet. Because again, I want to keep these projects beginner, but I also want to really reinforce a lot of the concepts we've gone over. I think this lecture will do both of those things. It's just that I'm not sure if I want to do decimals just yet. Of course, by the end of this course, you can go off and make a graphing calculator, like pretty much anything that you can do within Scratch or block-based programming, you'd be able to do. But for the purpose of these being beginner projects, oh, I'm not gonna do that actually. So I'm gonna swap this out for equal, and I'm gonna make this other one here clear. That's what I'm gonna do. But I'll just go ahead and do this last one first. And I'd say maybe like one more centered. Okay. So, boom, selected. And I'll go ahead and fill this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, since I know these are on the same row and I'm making a new column, I know what the y value is going to be. I know the y value is going to be, I think it was 24. Let's check. Yeah, or sorry, it was 64. And then I'll just subtract another 70 from here. So it would be x negative, or no, it would be a positive x value. So it should be like x 36. Let's see if that's correct. I'm going to get rid of the old one here. Let's see. That is not correct. So, and then by the way, the reason why the other ones disappeared is because they were like overlapping. They're trying to overlap with other ones, but they just went under it. Like if I move some of these, you'd probably find them. Yeah. Just in case you're wondering where those went. But yeah. So this is not correct. Did I go ahead and do the right value? X36, Y64. Because the spacing was going to be 70, correct? Increments of 70. So x negative 34x. Let's see, what would this be? This is closer to 23. Is it 26? Could have messed up somewhere. It looks like it was 26, so I'll just go ahead and say that this column is x26 then, because that looks exactly right. So that's weird. I probably just messed up on my math there. So 26, and then what was our y for this row? Let's check 6. Y negative 4. Alright, let's test that. Alright, boom. So we know our x is 26, then our y should be minus another 68. So that should be what, negative 72. And of course our x is 26. Just like that. And lastly, let's do it for revision here, which should be 6 and negative 140, I believe was our y value for that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and make this equal. I'm going to go ahead and make this one clear. And remember how I said I want these to be different colors? I'm going to go ahead and just do that now. I like this nice peach color, so I'm just going to go ahead and do this. That plus is not perfectly centered, but alright, I like that. And then I think I'll make my clear and equals a little bit different color as well. I'll name this one button equal. And then lastly, my clear button, I'll just name it button capital C. So we have C selected. I'll just go ahead and text color black. We'll name it C. Just like that. And I want it to be about over there. I'll go ahead and get that peach color. What was this? 1065 100. Okay. And then this one was just 065 100. So can't type. All right. Boom. That's what we want there. Or for as far as our equals goes, actually this should probably be even different than these four. I'm thinking so. Something a little bit darker. Let's try 5, 65 100. I like that. I like that a lot. I'm just gonna go ahead and go with that. Let's do our equals, then we're done with the art for our buttons. I know it's been a little bit of a pain, hasn't it? But you know, it is good to get even more familiar with these editors and stuff. It just saves you time in the future. It really does. So it's good. It's good to keep in mind the fact that yes, it is a little bit boring, but you are saving yourself time in the future by really getting hands-on experience with this, and you're gonna have to do it somewhere or another. So might as well just get it knocked down now. Let's go 565 100. All right, I like that. And what is our equals going to be? Well, we want it to be x negative 184. And then it was row 4, y negative 40. Yeah, apparently so. Oh, I actually want to switch the positions of these two. So I can just go ahead and do that. I want this one to be negative 184. I just want this one to be negative 44. So just swapping the x values there, same y values. This looks perfect. This looks absolutely perfect. Let's make a little box for our output, perhaps. In fact, I'm just gonna name that one output, our sprite output. I'll just go ahead and do a no fill black outline box. We'll see what 4 pixels gets us. Something like that. Oops. I just want to kind of center this, if you will. And will this, and you have to kind of, you can't drag it from the inside, you have to drag it where there's actually pixels, like on the border here. So I'm thinking make this a little bit shorter and a little bit thinner. So I'm just changing my height and width here. I'm gonna try and recenter it as best I can. Okay, I think the height's good, but we do have to make it longer. Okay, I quite like that. It's not centered here, but it's like centered there, and I already have the X position, so I'm just not gonna worry about it. I'll just call it a day. Boom. Oh, what did I do? Apparently the wrong X value was saved here, so no worries. I'm just gonna play with these numbers until I get it where I want. A little bit more to the left. Ah, perfect. And what do I want to do for my height? I'm just gonna say that height's good and call it a day. So I've got my calculator here. Of course, if I press these buttons, they're not gonna do anything. So what can I do about that? Well, we actually have to start programming our calculator. And how are we even gonna do like the framework for this? Is probably the first question we're asking ourselves. But basically, what we're gonna want to do is we're only gonna go ahead and make a list. And this list is going to act as our memory, basically. Well, oops, I did my blocks. I don't know why I did that. We want to make a list. And I'll go ahead and name it input. It's public. We do want it to be for all sprites, so it's public, and then just I'll call it input. So now we do have something called input. I'm just going to go ahead and hide it. I'm going to use output for just putting like arbitrary scripts that are kind of like universal. So I don't have to go searching for what button I put them under. I'm going to go ahead and go when clicked. I'm going to go ahead and hide this list because I don't want it ever showing up. I'm going to delete my variable as well since we don't need it. And what I want input to do is I want it to hold, I basically want it to store values is what I want to do. So let's just go ahead and say that I went ahead and did forever. Well, I want to do this for my buttons. Let's just make a script and go ahead and go when clicked forever if I want to do an operator and I'm going to go to sensing, touching mouse pointer and mouse down, because this is better than when sprite clicked because we can actually hold it. So if we hold a button, it would just keep typing them out. Touching mouse pointer and mouse down. Where's mouse down? Where are you? There you are. Okay. So when touching mouse pointer and mouse down, then add whatever button this is to input, or whatever number this is to input. So I'll just go ahead and go add 0 to input. And I actually want to do a delay, because otherwise it'll just like add a bunch of zeros all at once since it's like really sensitive. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say 200 milliseconds since that's a really common delay that people use in Scratch. And of course it can be like 0.25, it can be whatever. That's just a common thing that I see people doing. So I'm just gonna go to 0.2, and I'm just gonna actually copy this for all my other buttons. So I'll just go like 1 through 9. Oh, what am I doing? And I did, for some reason, I did a 0 here because I wasn't thinking. This is actually 1 because I want to correlate what the button is. So this would be 2 since it's 2. For 3, you'd want it to be 3. This actually, again, we could just drag it over. And whichever, like, a sprite or if it's your stage, whichever sprite or stage is blinking, that's the one, or like shaking back and forth, that's the one that it's going to go into, like 4 shaking back and forth. So therefore, it's going to be 4. Then, boom, I know I have 4 selected, so I'm just going to change it to 4. I'm just going to do this for all my buttons. Shouldn't take too terribly long. Just if you actually drag it to the wrong one, you can just like right click delete, or if you drag something into this little area right here, it'll just delete itself. Do we already do 5? Yes, we did. We're on 6 now. Let's go 7, 8, 9. Oops. Yeah, I want it to be 9 as well. Then I want it to be 0 lastly. So now we got all of our number buttons all up and good to go. So basically this is working just fine, but I actually want to make some variables here because whenever we're doing things like plus, minus, multiplication, division, we're not just gonna add those to our input because it could get a little bit weird in terms of like for example, let's say I go 1, 4, and then plus. It'll think plus is a number and it'll just break the whole thing. Because it's looking for integer values exclusively, and plus is not an integer, it's a character. So what we can do is we can make 2 variables here, and I want to make one called operation, and I want to do something called, oh, I did not mean to do a list. I meant to do a variable, I apologize. Then we're also going to want to do something called memory, and all calculators something called memory, and basically whenever we're talking about calculators here, memory refers to the previous value stored. So a lot of calculators, let's say I go 12 and then I go plus, it kind of clears the screen. And then if I go 5, the 5 will show up. And then if I go equal, it'll say, well, the answer, which in that case would be 17. So it clears the screen once you choose an operator, and again, all four of these are operators. Uh, Add, subtract, multiply, divide, those are all operations, and I want the operation to have a value, so I'm thinking 1 for addition, 2 for subtraction, 3 for multiplication, and 4 for division. So that way the calculator knows which operation it's going to perform. Then I want memory, so it'll keep track of the previous value that just got deleted. So what we can do for that is we can go ahead and, well actually I want to hide these variables, and I want to make sure they're hidden here as well. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my plus. I'm going to go ahead and go when clicked. Again, I want a forever if and. Oh, that's an or, not an and. And then I forgot to wrap that with a forever, didn't I? And then I'll just go ahead and go touching mouse pointer. I'll go ahead and go mouse down. And then once I've done that, I'm all good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and set my operation to 1 because we talked about how we want to have an operation that correlates with the button. So of course addition would be 1, and I'm actually going to add a comment for this actually. If operation is 1, then the calculator knows to perform addition. Alright, now all we have to do is go ahead and go set our memory to our input. So what does this do? So if you remember, whenever we click on a button, it adds that number to a new row in the list. And so it'll take up all these rows and then combine them into a variable called memory. So now all those values were stored. So let's say we went like 155, and so there's 3 rows, one with 1, one with 5, and one with 5, or another one with 5. So there's 3 rows in total. It'll pass those as a parameter to our memory variable, and now memory is equal to 155. And that's pretty much the logic there. And now we want to delete all of input because we're going to input a second number, and then, or maybe even a third and a fourth, and then eventually we'll click equal or clear, but most likely click equal. And if we click equal, it'll just add all those together. And of course, we can actually overlap operations as well, as you'll see. So we're gonna do some cool stuff there, and then of course we want to delay so that we don't accidentally do like 5 pluses. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and I'm actually gonna copy this text as well. Forgot to do a period. I'm gonna copy this just since I'm gonna do the same comment a few times over. For minus, I'm doing the same thing, except for operations 2. I'm gonna add that comment there. The operation is 2, and the calculator knows to perform subtraction. Alright. Of course, if we go ahead and do for multiplication division, if it's 3, then we know how to perform multiplication. Alright. Don't know if I spelled multiplication correctly there. But anyways, that's beyond the point. Lastly, let's do it here. 4. And then if it's 4, we know it's going to perform division. So now we're going to do the code for, because the only thing we have in program now, right, is our clear and equals. So we'll just go ahead and do that now. I think we'll do equals first, or, how do we want to do this? We could do equals first. So basically, what I'm thinking to do for equals is I'm thinking to just check for whatever operation is, and it'll perform that operation. So let's just go ahead and go equals. We have it selected here. We're going to make a new script, of course. The script's going to be unique to this button. So it'll just be forever if. Where's our controls here? So forever if and. We'll just say forever if touching mouse pointer and mouse down. And once we've done that, we'll just go ahead and have what should be like, I think 4 conditionals inside this, 1 for each of these 4 operations. I guess that would be 4, right? And so what we're gonna want to go ahead and do here is we're gonna do an equal to operator for each of these, because we want it to check for what operation equals to. So if operation equals to 1, if operation equals to 2, all the way through 4. Or actually, I'll just go ahead and do this. So I think we're going to need a new variable called result. Yeah, because the result is what's going to be actually outputted. And so let's say operation equals 1. And we're just going to set our result. And we're going to go ahead and set it to an operator. We're passing the value from the result of this operator to our function. So let me explain. We're going to go ahead and do memory plus input in the order of memory plus input, because remember how in programming you're adding, if there's like if there's an operator between two values, this value is going by that operator onto the second one. For addition, it doesn't really matter, but for multiplication, division, at least it certainly does. So we wouldn't want to divide the we wouldn't want to divide the divisor by the dividend. We'd want to divide the dividend by the divisor. And in case you don't know, in terms of division, the divisor is what you're dividing by, and then the dividend is what is actually being divided. So let's say if 100 divided by 10 equals 10, then 100 would be the dividend, 10 would be the divisor, and then the answer would just be the quotient. Just fun little fact there in case you didn't know. We're going to delete all the inputs as we want to clear input after that. And I'm going to go ahead and broadcast something called reset. And what reset is going to do is going to reset the output of the calculator. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Operations equals 2, we'll do the same thing, except for instead of adding, we want to do subtraction. Right? Something like that. That said, if we wanted to do this thing over again, we could just go ahead and choose whatever operator. Again, here's the asterisk and forward slash I was talking about. And yeah, we're just literally swapping out our operator for whatever we want to perform, which vision would be number 4. So we should be good there. And well, actually, we're gonna want to do a wait 0.2 seconds at the end of all of this. Notice how I'm putting it between this if statement, or this group of if statements, and this if touching mouse pointer mouse down, just because I don't want it to like repeat these over and over and over. I want there to be some gap in between, of course. And that said, for clear, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go ahead and just do something that deletes all of our input so that it's no longer there. Why is our result showing? Oh, I guess I never checked this box, and I'll just go ahead and put hide result here. My bad. For clear, basically, where is it? I'm touching mouse pointer, mouse down. Then we're going to want to delete all the input and do another wait 0.2 seconds. And I'm going to further elaborate on what I'm doing with this whole input, result, operation, and memory, especially input and memory in just a moment. But and then also I'm going to explain why we're using a list for input instead of a variable, because that's going to be very important. But basically the key thing there is that if you want to store several values, you're going to want to use a list, which again in text-based programming is called an array, and block-based programming is called a list. It's kind of a key information there if you're taking notes. Text-based is an array, block-based is a list. But anyway, for a list, we're going to want, if you're storing several values, and a variable is just if you're storing a single value. Of course, that value can change throughout your program, but again, it's still if you're storing a single value. So that is just something you're going to want to keep in mind. So now, really, all we have to do here is get something that says and what we could do is we could like actually do in the same font size and everything, and just print out numbers here. Usually calculators go right to left, but because that would involve like creating all this like text spray with all these costumes and then creating clones of it and all this other stuff, and then there's a lot of error handling, I'm just gonna go ahead and use this save function. And of course you guys can go ahead and try and not use the save function, find another way to output if you'd like, but I'm not going to do that. And also I don't want to waste you guys' time as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say, well, I guess we already have our go-to. Um, yeah. Well, what am I doing? Oh yeah, this is a separate script. So I'm just gonna go ahead and go forever. I guess we can just go forever say input. Yeah. So let me explain. Let me like explain this entire input and memory thing now. So basically, whenever we click one of our 1 through 0 buttons, it gets added to the input. And if we click an operation, the previous input gets added to the memory, and then the new input is added to the input. Whenever we go equals, it'll check for the operation, which is specified by one of the buttons we press here, one of these 4 buttons. Let's say it's addition, then the operation will be 1. So if the operation is 1, it'll add the input to the memory and output it here using the save function, and then clear will just delete all of input. So let's just test it out. So 1 plus 2 equals, let's just go ahead and see what our problem was. Such result. Oh, I guess we never did what receive reset is gonna do. I don't know if we're still gonna do, because I talked about how it might be important to have a reset function, but yeah, I'm just trying to think if I want to do that. Because what reset would do is basically that would kind of get rid of our, or set our result back and set our input and memory all back to 0. But I'm thinking we don't have to do that, but I'm trying to just troubleshoot this here. So basically whenever we click the equal, the result of that did not get sent to our input. So, or sorry, that did not get sent to our output, which is printing input. Well, one thing we could do is we could go ahead and go receive. When I receive reset, we could just delete all of input, and we could set the or we could add the result to input. Because really although it's kind of weird, the input is actually getting outputted. So we can go ahead and go add our result. So this way, if we go 1 plus 2, it should display 3 whenever we go equals. If I want to go 3 plus 6, it should be 9. If I go 9 times 2, it should be 18. 18 minus 6 should be what, 12? I'm just kind of testing all the functions here. 12 divided by 2 should be 6. Now what if we divided by 5? Decimals work. I believe you can go actually decimals to 16 places. So I just divided by something really weird here. Yeah, 16 places to the right of the decimal. And you can just kind of mess around with it here. If we go ahead and go clear, we'll just be back to 0. So we can just go like 2 plus 2. And so you can really play around with this. We have a fully functioning calculator now. And also, if you wanted to, you'd have an invisible sprite right here in the middle. So the say speech bubble for the say function is actually like stems off from the middle or from like the far left. But right now it's just going from here, from the right out. But since there's only 16 decimal places, I don't have to worry about it going too far. But I also did left align it for the purpose that the speech bubble is going to stretch right. If it's on the left side of the screen, or if we did this on the left side of the screen, the speech bubble is going to stretch left. It's just going to do whatever it can to try and stay within the boundaries of this little visual area here. We do have a fully functioning calculator now, so pat yourself on the back because it all works now. So, in fact, if we want to visualize what some of this is doing more, I'm just going to temporarily show input. I'm going to temporarily show memory operation result just to explain this again real quickly. So if we go ahead and go clear. All right. So currently, if we just go ahead and go 3, it's in our input. Now if we go 36, it's still in our input. So now it's 36. And if we go plus, or let's say we go minus, the operation is set to 2 because 2 is minus, and we already commented this in what that's for. But our memory is now 36 because our input is now empty, but our memory is still storing that value. So if we go, 38, that is now our input. Then the result, based on the operation, which is 2, it knows to subtract. So the result is now going to subtract the memory from the new input, which should be -2. meaning that the result is -2 and it's now printing our result. So regardlessly, our output will always print input, but the input can either be the result or just the raw input, or whatever the memory is about to be before it gets passed back. And so that is how we're using operation memory result and input to make a fully functioning calculator. And this is how calculators are made. This is, I mean, there's always things you could vary within the code. There's not like one way to do it, but this is a way, and um, it is a pretty solid way, I'd say. Since save now is not there, I know it's already saved. I'm just gonna go to the project page. I'm gonna do my instructions. My title's good. I'm gonna do my instructions, my notes and credits. I'm just gonna like and favorite it because why not? And then I'll get into this, add this to the studio, of course. So this will be available for you guys if you want to go and check this out. And instructions. Well, the instructions be press the buttons to calculate values. Let's go ahead and say version v1.0 date published. For me, that's October 19th, 2019, and this is the format I use for doing dates. It might be a little bit different for you. I just go day, month, year. I'll just go ahead and do that. And then I'll just go ahead and go author. Udemy Scratch Course is my username. I wouldn't recommend using your real name ever on this platform at all. I'd actually strongly advise you to not do that. Version, date published, author, and I'll just go ahead and get application calculator. So this actually gives you a taste into app development, what's called app development. So if you think about programming, you've got really three main categories here. You have game development, app development, and web development. So web development would be working with websites, just a lot of online stuff, a lot of web server stuff, a lot of quote backend development, and also some front end stuff like web development would be like making what makes this header blue, what makes these buttons go link to certain pages, how these even pages and URLs work, how links work, how just doing all these different things. And web development is kind of like this niche category for programming, but you have game development, which is basically making games. It could be 2D, 3D, all types of games. And app development would be something like this, making applications that aren't really for entertainment. They're more for informative things, like maybe working with databases. Of course, web development still works with databases. Even game development, especially if we're doing multiplayer stuff, but like online multiplayer. But yeah, it's essentially app development is like more for things like this. Really achieving or completing certain operations. Really, it's completing operations, I guess. I mean, I guess all programming really quote completes operations, but this is not for entertainment. This is like strictly for complete a task. And so like this is for math example. This is would be a application for math. Now a graphing calculator would be also an application. Uh, Google Translate, if you're familiar with that, that's an application. I'm just trying to think of examples right off the bat. Um, a login window would be an application in most cases. Things like that. So ultimately, that is app development for you. Or well, I guess this is a app development project, and it's your first one. I thank you for choosing this course as well. I hope this made a lot of sense. And of course, again, Scratch Wiki, where it's right here, is like the number one source I'd recommend you go to first if you don't really understand anything. Because I really don't want you guys to get lost at all. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next lecture. In the next lecture, lecture number 15, I think it is. Maybe it's lecture 14. I'm losing count now. Yeah. So the next lecture we'll be going to do a we'll do a what was it? I have to check now. Um, but anyways, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next lecture where we do an art project. And so I think what we'll do for that is like you can select your brush, you can select the color and select the size and basically make a little doodler project. And I think that'll be a lot of fun. I think you guys will enjoy that. And again, that's still kind of app development. It can be game development, but what we're going to be doing is kind of app development. And we're going to learn a lot, reinforce a lot of stuff, especially with the looks category. After that, we're going to do an art project, or sorry, after that, we're going to do a music project. I'm reading this list along. And then the last beginner project we're going to do is an interactive story. I think you guys will really enjoy that because that's going to kind of be really up to you what you want to do with that story. But yeah, and then after that, we'll do intermediate projects. So just kind of a little bit of an outline there. And yep, so you guys just got this quiz after this. And for the seeing guys in the next lecture, we're doing our art project.